Tell him about the time we faced you. All right. Well, as I remember. At Avenger headquarters.
Because united, the Avengers are strong.
Welcome to the Marvel Evolution Show with myself, Andy Stead.
And I'm Jarian Gibson.
And I'm Alex Stroud.
How are we doing, chaps? How are you, Alex?
I'm good. Been a weekend filled with Christmas shopping and wrapping presents and all that good stuff. So, you know.
How jolly.
Yeah, definitely.
How jolly. Jarian, how are you?
I'm here. That's all
Here.
about that. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
It's been a weekend. The page, I don't know what's going on. The page got put in restricted mode, but we're streaming to it though. The stream is there. I just can't post anything. So I don't know what happened. We never had any problems with it. I don't know if someone reported us or if they're just doing one of those random things, but it's under review right now. So we'll see what happens.
I saw a lot of people saying about different pages being under review and things like this. So we'll see. Well, we can only do what we can do. You know, sometimes our hands are tied. So we know you do a lot of work behind the scenes and our man in the chair. So, you know, did you enjoy the World Cup final, Jarian?
Yeah, it was good. You know, I could care less about the two teams that were in it, but, you know, congratulations, Argentina. You know, at first I was like, okay, this game's over at the halftime, but I was like, you know what, this could be one of those a tale of two halves games, and it certainly was. You know, France came on strong, and, you know, at least it was a very enjoyable half, and I hate seeing things end on penalty kicks. They just keep playing.
Not nice. Yeah, it's not nice. It was. You said it was a game of two halves. It was a game of 90% and 10%, wasn't it? Because you know, France didn't really turn up until the 80th minute, and then they kind of got that penalty, and then it was they kind of come out of their shell a little bit, didn't they? And to be fair to them, they were the better team from that point right up till the end of the game, really, right up to the end of extra time. But I think that sort of experience that Argentina have got, you know, there were some young lads taking penalties for France, and I think that caught them a little bit. But for me, the right team won. I've watched France their last two games in the competition. The semi-finals, obviously against Morocco, and obviously the quarterfinal against England, and they were the second best team in both of those games. And you know, I can't believe that they got through both of them. So they were riding their luck a little bit, if you ask me. But anyway, we're not here to talk about football or soccer. We're here. Oh, sorry, go on, Joe.
One last thing, though. You know, I understand doing penalty kicks, you know, for like the semifinals, the round of 16, the quarterfinals, whatever. But for the finals, make them keep playing. You know, it's sudden death overtime. You keep going. You know, either have them tie if they don't get it after like 3 overtimes, but don't go to penalty kicks. That's like the worst thing to do, because that's, you know, I don't know. I just don't like it for championships.
It feels like
that.
It's probably like throwing the game in one direction or the other. That's a lot to put on penalty kicks.
Yeah, I'd rather have a tie.
I've always thought it might be a nice idea to do, or not nice idea, but something different to do what they do in hockey. So have like a face-off. So you start with the ball on the centre spot, and then you run, and you've got you know, the goalkeeper can't come off their line until you enter their box, and then once you enter their box, they can come off the line, and once you enter the box, you've got 10 seconds to get a shot off. Yeah, I just thought that might be a bit more exciting than one kick, you know.
Or do corner kick set pieces or something like that, you know,
or
free kicks. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Just do corners to finish the game.
Well, like the first one's a corner kick set piece. The next one's like a free kick somewhere, you know, to kind of move it around. But you're basically within that last quarter part of the field each time. And you switch, you know, and you switch it out each time, kind of like college football, right? You ever watch American college football, Andy?
I haven't, but I kind of know what it is. But
yeah. So they're overtime. Basically, they get the ball at the 25-yard line, and they have to score. And you can score or kick a field goal, and you keep doing that until somebody wins. You know, at least you're playing like that. So I would want to see that in FIFA in a final game. I don't want to see penalty kicks. I just don't like penalty kicks in a final like that.
I mean, there's lots of changes coming, isn't there? I mean, the next World Cup's going to be over in America and Mexico and Canada, and
actually here. We're getting games here in Kansas City.
Getting games right in Kansas, yeah.
Yes.
And they were saying that it's going to be bigger. There's going to be more teams involved, and the groups are only going to be groups of 3. And so the top 2 go through, and then there's larger rounds. There's a round of 32, a round of 16, then quarters, semis, and finals. So there's lots of changes are happening. So who knows? You never know. One day, Joey, and one day. Yeah. Anyway, we are not here to talk about football, although that was fun. We're here to talk about Marvel stuff. We've got an AUA planned, so basically ask us anything. So anybody that's listening live, watching live, ping us a question in the chat, wherever you're watching, whether that be Facebook or Twitch or YouTube. Ping us some questions, anything Marvel related. It can be about the MCU. It can be about sort of the extended, quote unquote, extended universe. Any sort of other Marvel content that's been in film or TV. It could be about comics. It could be about collectibles. It could be about cartoons. It can be about our own likes and dislikes within Marvel. Anything you want it to be. But like I say, try and be creative with the questions if you've got any, and we'll answer them if you have. I know we've got some news to have a little look through, so we'll do that as well. But other than news, has anybody been up to anything marvelly? Reading anything, watching anything different? Obviously we've not got any MCU content at the moment. So, anyone?
Honestly, I've been kind of like looking at Legends figures a lot more, and I'm kind of sliding into buying Legends stuff a little bit more. I don't know why, but I'm getting into those Build-A-Figures now, how some of those sets come with you can build a figure, and of course, there's always going to be one that's going to be hard to find. But I'm just I'm kind of now sliding from Funkos more into those and buying a little bit less of Funkos. Just something that I started doing recently. There's still some Funkos that I'll still buy, but yeah.
You can never give up the ghost completely, can you?
No, but I mean, I've always collected figures and statues and ever since I was a kid. So it's one of those things for me where it's kind of I kind of stopped doing that as much as I was buying Funkos, and now I'm kind of just kind of flipping back into that, And,
yeah, it's a shame you don't want to pigeonhole yourself into one collectible item.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I've got probably 300 and some Funkos now, and now I'm all right, now what do I do with all of them? And now I've got a closet just filled with Funkos, and now I'm kind of all right, I'm gonna buy more action figures now because why not?
I really like I know Antonio does it with Star Wars figures on our group, but I really like those photography that people do with Legends and
so awesome.
It's fantastic, and it's great the way that people do that stuff, and they're so real. They're so real. You watch them, you have to double take at some of the pictures, don't you? You go, is that actually real?
What's crazy is I shared one on the group recently of Namor fighting Shuri in the Black Panther costume that somebody had done, and then I didn't share this one, but I also saw this one the other day on a Legends collectibles group. Somebody had taken Civil War and basically recreated that, but with the zombie Captain America and the zombie Iron Man. So it was those two, and it even had Iron Man basically shooting blasts at Captain America and everything. It's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, because obviously then with apps now that they do, that you can get apps on your phone. It's so easy. You can take a photo and then you can just add an effect to it, can't you? So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On the chat, 300. Wow, that's a lot.
Somebody's impressed with the number of Funkos that you've got. I'm not quite at that stage yet with any of my collectibles. I haven't got the room. I need another room, and another dedicated room. My younger son keeps saying, "Why don't you convert the gym, where I work, into a geek room?" And I'm like, "Because I work here. Maybe one day when I'm not working in here, then maybe I will." But it's a good idea. But in principle, however,
do you have an attic?
Yeah, but it's not really ideal for it. I have thought about that, but then because I thought, I could go and set stuff up there, but I'd never see it. All the stuff's here behind me and on shelves, so I can see the stuff. So it's nice to be able to see it. If it was in the attic, then I'd have to go up there to go and see it. It's not an accessible room, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it'd be sort of put away, and I like the fact that it's all out and people come around and go, "Oh, look at that, what's that?" And I said, "Oh, it's this,"
Yeah, I've seen things with people doing Legos like that. They'll actually build Lego cities in their attic. as you know, they don't have the space for it, so they actually, you know, at least do some drywall, do some, you know, bare stuff, but then deck it all out in Lego cities. I've seen some of those things happen.
Like Will Ferrell does with his basement in the Lego movie.
Yep. Which once I get the other half of my basement fixed is what I'm going to do one of these days.
Nice. Yeah, I've always sort of wanted to do that. Have a shed, and then on the side of the shed have like your own room where you can do, you know, like half and half. Yeah, that's good.
I feel like if I had a collectibles room, like I would always keep it locked, because like if somebody came over and they like brought a kid, or if like somebody walks in and they're like, "Oh, let me just like pick this up off the shelf," like, no, please do not touch that. Like, you know, like
get your sticky fingers off of my stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like if I had a room dedicated to like all my collectibles, I think that would be awesome. But at the same time, it's like almost better to me to box them up and keep them safe and out of people's hands and stuff, you know. So
can I play with your toys? They're not toys.
Yeah, they're not toys.
It says free and up.
That's my Funkos are locked in the basement in their own room. You know, the Funkos and that other stuff, and then just my Legos and Voltron stuff are in the basement. They're out, but only my son goes down there. Like he brings friends over, they don't go in the basement right now. I'm like, nope.
Nobody that we don't know goes down there.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's it. I'll tell you what I've been watching. As you know, I'm on my Defender saga. I'm nearly all the way through Iron Fist, and do you know what? I actually don't mind it as much as I thought I would. I think again, this is where my interest wavered, where I think a lot of people's interest wavered when they watched it, and I can't quite put my finger on exactly why, because I'm actually really enjoying it this second time round. And there's quite a lot of things that I like about it. And I got to say, I like his fighting style. I like it. I think he's cool. I like the lazy. I mean, whether that was on purpose or whether that was because of lack of training, I don't know. I'm trying to keep a straight face, but this is genuine. Honestly, I'm genuinely saying this. I like that kind of, like that drunken stuff. And I saw the drunken fight, Alex, that you was talking about. The guy with he's got like the jugs of, you know, of beer.
Alcohol.
Whatever he's drinking. Yeah. But, do you know what? I'm quite enjoying it, and you know, it's part of that world. And I tell you what, talking about part of the world, I think they do an excellent job within that whole series and that whole not just that series in Iron Fist, but in the whole saga, that, you know, all of those shows of very subtly connecting all of those shows and all of those characters together. Obviously, there's the obvious connections with Rosario Dawson, you know, Night Nurse. There's those obvious big, like, here she is, she's been in every show. But then all of a sudden, like the DA will turn up and you're like, I recognize him. Where do I recognize him from? And then, or they'll mention something that's happened. And, you know, Gal obviously turns up again in Iron Fist, and she mentions things about, you know, the devil, and, you know, they're just very subtle with the way that they mention things throughout all of the shows that reference other things. Which there was a one more. There was a bit in Luke Cage where they said about, because they were bringing in the special guns that could take down Luke Cage, and then they said a little bit about Frank Castle, you know, tore up Hell's Kitchen, you know, with an assault rifle. Imagine what he could have done with this. And you're like, that's a nice little subtle. I know, obviously they've mentioned his name, but it was just a throwaway comment, and it was really nice. Anyway, Alex, go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I really, like, the one thing that I feel like I really just felt like I wanted so bad in the Iron Fist show had to be, like, I wanted to see Shao Lao the Undying and see, like, a fight reference to where how, like, Iron Fist defeated him, or, like, at least some, like, exposition on, like, how it happened, like, all that kind of stuff. Because that seemed to be, like, you know, something that was, like, just, like, some very few people would be able to do. And we also know that, like, he's, like, a dragon, and then in the Defenders saga, that's all about the dragon bones. It's like underneath the city, you know, that they're trying to access, and it gives them, like, so it's kind of like another double dip into that dragon kind of stuff, related stuff. But and Iron Fist being the key to kind of like opening the door to get to it, kind of type of thing. But you know, yeah, I really felt like that they could have, like, push that there. But I mean, like you said, there was other scenes where you would have Jessica Jones, she'd meet Luke Cage in one show, and then in Defenders, like, they meet back up and they're like, oh, look, it's you again, like, you know, like, what are you doing here? Like, a lot of them had met before, or kind of like crossed into other people's shows, so it was like a lot easier to kind of like make the connections of them all coming together versus just like having like 4 random people come together and just be like, hey, we're on a team now and we're gonna fight. Like, there was some background to it almost.
Yeah, and there was and this was before, well, this was in a time when Marvel Studios were only just doing this themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'd only just started doing that themselves, hadn't they, in the early to mid 2000s, like linking all of these things together. They were still only in the early stages of that at that time. So, you know, it kind of takes me back to those early days when there was just those little nods with Coulson, you know, in the MCU and things like that. So yeah, it's fun. I'm really enjoying watching it. And I've got my other son involved in it now. He's watching Iron Fist with me, so that's really cool. He hasn't watched any of the other shows with me, but he is watching this one. So when he goes, "Who's that?" and I'm like, "That's Night Nurse. She was in this." What's she mentioning that for? Well, because blah blah. Blah. You know, you're like, "Oh no, I've got 3 shows that I've got to talk about. 4 shows." But yeah.
From the chat here, I like the mentions of Hulk destroying Harlem and Luke Cage. I think they mentioned Thor too, if I remember right. So
That they say about someone with like a magic hammer, or you know,
coming out of the sky or something
yeah,
like that.
yeah, it was like an obscure mention.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, they constantly, they very often mention a big green monster. Very often. Obviously, they never say Thor. They never say Hulk. They do say Captain America. Someone says Captain America. I think he says, "Oh, you're supposed to be Captain America now." But yeah, they never say the names of the characters, but they do certainly reference them quite a lot.
I feel like the idea back then was to have like the big movies and all that kind of stuff, and then have these like really grounded characters all be TV shows, almost in a way of like ground, because they're like grounded characters. They're not going to get like, you know, you're not going to see like these characters doing what the Avengers are doing, you know, fighting aliens and stuff like that. Like it just not in that vein. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that is how Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. started off as well. Like the first season of that was quite grounded, wasn't it? And then it kind of got, you know, more and more elaborate.
Went from like spy thriller to like science fiction almost, like, you know, kind of like a transition almost.
Yeah, I didn't mind that kind of sort of X-Files style, where they kind of each week they had a new sort of mystery to solve, and there was a new character, and it was sort of pulling from, you know, it was Whirlwind or whoever it might have been that was just turning up, and they've kind of, you know, got to work out how to stop him. I didn't kind of mind that. And then it started getting crazy and started going really, you know, really the other way, didn't it? When they brought the Inhuman thing in, and that kind of spiraled and then into space. And then, to be honest, I lost interest in it after a little while, to be, you know, if I'm totally honest.
I think I'll have this. We'll save this for the AMA here in the chat.
Okay, yeah, okay. No problem. But yeah, so that's where I've been at with that. Haven't read anything new at this point. So, but just and there's obviously the news. I tell you what, before we go into news, Henry Cavill.
Yeah,
big news. I mean, I know there's lots of shouts to get him into Marvel, but it looks like he's going down the route of Warhammer. I don't know much about Warhammer. Apart from the fact that one of my clients, her ex-husband, is like one of the biggest importers and exporters of Warhammer figurines in the UK or something. That's pretty much all I know about it.
Interesting.
But yeah, he's going to be in Warhammer movie.
Yeah, that was a big surprise to not see him have a future, because he just announced his return to that studio. So a big misstep on their part, but I'm not really going to get into that because that's a whole other can of worms, to be honest.
We'll have a special DC show to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want that, because it's just going to be me here for hours, just mad and angry about like the future of it, because it's going to be a mess. But anyways.
But you got to blame his representation as well, right? His agent, because apparently he only got money for 2 cameos, which I'm not going to name them because I won't spoil anything. One was shown, one's not going to be shown, and him leaving The Witcher, you know, they should have secured a better contract for him if he was going to leave that show.
Well, and the one that is not going to be shown, that was the apparent cameo that we saw, or we would have seen outside of the Black Adam one, didn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
I'm literally just like dumbfounded. Like, why would you do this? And yeah, I mean, I like the one in Black Adam, but like, it's just one of those weird things where it's like, this is almost like a U-turn in the wrong direction here. Like, and it's like, why? And I know there's like a complaint that he's too old, but like Robert Pattinson is 36 and he's playing year 2 Batman, and Henry Cavill's like, I think in his late 30s. So, you know, I get that there's like a different direction on the story, but I just don't get it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't either. Like you said, it's a U-turn, but a really quick and sharp and abrupt U-turn. I mean, literally. I mean, I know obviously the scene would have been recorded maybe a year ago, but only a few months ago did we have him appear in Black Adam, almost announcing his return to the role, and now it just seems strange.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
Go
3
ahead.
months ago, Henry Cavill was like told that he should put on social media or something, like in October or something, that he was coming back, and it's just build up excitement and everything. But yeah, weird direction that they're going now.
Yeah,
Strange.
it almost seems like Black Adam was meant, and The Rock were trying to save the Snyderverse people almost. And since Black Adam did not do like they thought it would, that when the new Overload with Gunn and Peter, whatever his name is, when they came in and said, you know what, we're just going to reboot everything, and keep a couple things that we did, but, reboot everything, it seemed like.
Yeah, but it seems like they're not touching the Reeves stuff, which I hope they don't get their claws into that. Like, that needs to just kind of stay separated, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
if they start doing this where they just start, like, picking and choosing stuff and, like, getting rid of Aquaman for Lobo to make, like, some Guardians of the Galaxy Michael Bay version of a movie, where there's just explosions and jokes, like, we don't need a Lobo solo project. We just don't. Like, that's not really a character that you just are excited to get a solo project about. You know what I'm saying? Like, in my opinion.
We didn't need more Avatar either, but yet here we are.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. I still haven't even seen the first one, so.
Have you not?
No, I've never watched either of those.
You're
so.
not missing anything.
Yeah.
It's got its place, I think, but it's very obvious. Like the whole film's, you know what's going to happen, and almost when you could almost lay the movie out at the very beginning. But there are some stunning things in there, and some nice moments. But it is quite. It's not a thinking man's movie. Let's put it like that.
When you see the second one, Andy, what you just said is the exact same thing for the second one. It's the exact same thing for the second one. The visuals are there. I love the water people. Because I saw it Thursday with my son, because we had like a community thing I do that our end of the year thing was the movie. So I took my son there. He hadn't seen the first one. He wanted to get up and leave halfway through the movie. He's like, I'm bored.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he loves that kind of stuff. So for him to be bored, but yeah, Alex is Dancing with Wolves in space.
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
Yep, is what I think of it. And the second one is the same story told again in a different way. It is, seriously.
Yeah.
No, it is. I love that. That's brilliant. Yeah, that's quite funny.
Catch up on the chat here real quick though, about your comments about the street level people and so forth. You won't get blockbuster movies with street levelers, but the shows are perfect for them, which I agree. They can also do cameos in movies as well, but they won't be the main people in the movies. Yeah. And then the other comment is that he'll always be my favorite Superman, and that's in reference to Henry Cavill. So
I think the talking about the blockbuster movies with street levelers, I kind of get what you're saying. Like, it's never going to be your summer, $900 million blockbuster, but you can get a good movie out of them.
I mean,
I think you can get a good movie.
If they did a Defenders movie and went bigger and better, I could see it with all of them as a sum, being a big movie. But individually, no. Maybe Daredevil. Maybe Daredevil, they could do it. Maybe Punisher. But the rest of them, probably not. You would need at least that, like I said, a Defenders movie, or do like we talked about with Spider-Man and kind of bring them through Spider-Man that way. But you won't do, individually, no.
Talking of Spider-Man, there is something else that I've done marvelly this week. Watched The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And there's some really, really great moments in that. And it just reminds me actually how good Andrew Garfield is as not just as Spider-Man, just as an actor. I mean, the bit in that movie where Gwen dies, spoiler alert, he's fantastic. He does such a great job. Like, you can't help but feel sorry for the lad. Yep. In that situation. He's very, very good. And we've actually watched The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 in this last week, and they are very good. And it's a shame that got kind of kiboshed as it happens. There were some things wrong with it, granted. There were
Rhino.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There were certainly some issues, but there was a lot of good things about that, and I think that could have been rescued. To be
Mhm.
totally honest, he could have been rescued better than. Or having said that, where he is now, you never know. Might have been, you know,
It's
the right.
weird if you could take like some stuff from Toby's movies and some stuff from Garfield's movies and kind of like mix them together. I think I would get like my perfect Spider-Man movie, because like I love Garfield as Spider-Man, but they seem to be going into some weird direction about his blood also being tied to him having his powers, and I didn't really like that too much. But also at the same time, like I felt like Toby was like more nerdy than how Garfield was. Like I'd never have pictured Peter Parker being a skateboarder, like, you know, and that one just
He was
kind
too
of
cool, weren't he? Yeah.
yeah, like it was just like one of those things where it was like at that point in my life, like I can't remember, that movie came out in 2015.
Yeah,
The
probably.
second one, okay, yeah. Like I mean, that was like when I was like in college riding a longboard to class. So like seeing him like as a skateboarder and everything like that, it didn't really feel like he was like the nerdy guy that that I always kind of got from Peter Parker. So
Yeah, and I think that's the argument. A lot of people say that, don't they? That Tobey Maguire is a better Peter Parker, and then Andrew Garfield was a better Spider-Man.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I enjoy the Garfield movies much better than the Tobey Maguire movies. And even my son, he tried to watch the Tobey Maguire ones. He's not into it, but he loves the Garfield ones too. So,
Yeah.
From the chat here, let me see. Avatar needs to make how much again just to break even? Some crazy number like 2 billion or something.
Yeah.
Or someone goes to RMC. I'm going to watch it in 30 minutes. And then through replying to Roxy, it looks like this must be RMC. James Cameron, thanks you for your contribution. So it looks like Roxy's going to go see it here in 30 minutes.
Yeah. She said.
Yeah. So James Cameron, thanks for your contribution. I've heard mixed reviews about it, mostly good. Like I wouldn't have gone. Honestly, I wouldn't have gone to see it if it wasn't free to go see. I wouldn't have paid money to see it. So yeah, I would have waited for Disney Plus or whatever platform it came out on.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Right. Have we got? You got a couple of news pieces there, Jarian, that we can chat about?
Well, do you want to do this first question first, real quick? That we had earlier.
Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
So, I'm new to the MCU, but how did they go so wrong with dealing with Bruce's location after Age of Ultron? They showed 2 completely different outcomes in the Marvel one-shots versus in Ragnarok. And in Infinity War, he didn't know about the activities in Civil War versus in the one-shots where he avoided taking sides. Didn't Taki do those one-shots? So that's a good question.
Yeah, and you're talking about like the one shots, like where Thor is like with Daryl, and Thor goes and meets Bruce, and he's like, "How do I keep waking up in these cut off pants and things like that?" And he's like, just like making those jokes. And I think like Tony Stark calls him and is like, "Hey, buddy, like I want you on my side," and he's like, "Oh, Tony, there's no enough money in the world, not enough money for me to be on your side or something."
Yeah, I said I think the one shots are kind of more like kind of filler type things, and I lean more to what we saw in the movies. So what we saw in Ultron and Ragnarok more than what we saw in the one shots. There's some good stuff in the one shots, kind of like what they do with the Mandarin, and Trevor, in jail, and Justin Hammer. I thought that was pretty good, but the one shots, I would just kind of ignore those as far as being part of the main timeline and kind of explaining things, because obviously there's conflicts there.
Even though they put Daryl in Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are they canon? Yeah, that's that argument, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, So when are we talking about? We're talking about after Ragnarok. They should have got their stuff together by then, shouldn't they?
Yep.
Really.
Yep.
Like they should have understood whether we're going all in or we're just gonna mess about.
And we know they're canon, and I sympathize this. Remember in Homecoming when they said 5 years later with Spider-Man when that whole time jump was wrong? That's what the one shots are in some cases. They're basically they're part of the MCU, but there's obviously errors in them.
Yeah, haven't they got somebody?
They do now after the multiverse,
a continuity.
Yep, for the multiverse they do now
or something.
Yep, that started in Phase 4.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the sort of connectivity of everything now is key almost, isn't it? Like they don't want to get anything wrong. They've got somebody scrutinizing every word that's said or, every moment. Where did they, I say back then, it wasn't long ago, was it? 2017.
Back in my day.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but it almost feels like that now. It feels like a lot's happened since then, doesn't it? Like a lot has happened since. If you're thinking about that, since Ragnarok, so much has happened. You know, so much change has happened in such a short amount of our time. You know, we're talking 5 years. A lot's changed. But yeah, did they have the same sort of continuity back then? It's like that argument where people say, "Oh, you know, how can they have built this up since, you know, Iron Man?" And it's like they didn't. They were just throwing everything and seeing what happened. And it was like, I reckon we can write that in. You know, we can make that, you know, part of the continuity. And you know, like the Loki scepter, that's all of a sudden the Mind Stone. Like, they didn't know that when they first gave him that scepter. Don't give me that. But that's what writers are paid for, to work out stuff like that.
See, that one I don't know, because when they first gave him the scepter, when he was in Thor, when he had the scepter, or no, he had the scepter in Thor.
He had the Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers. I'm thinking it's his other thing he had in Thor.
Like, why would Thanos give him the scepter with an Infinity Stone in it if he's trying to collect all the Infinity Stones?
Yeah, but if you think about Avengers, though, the way he was controlling people, like, you know, like flying monkeys, it does make sense, though.
Yeah. It kind of does, but I think they've retconned that big time. Like Alex said, like I want Loki to go and get me the space stones because I want all the stones, so I'm going to give you a stone to go and get another stone, and then I want to have that one. And it's like, you've got one. Yeah, it just didn't quite. I just didn't make sense. It does make sense because they've now made it make sense, but I think it makes sense that it wasn't always written.
And it always just bothers me, the fact that we have half of the stones somehow like make it all to Earth, and then the other ones, like one of them's just like trapped on a planet somewhere, and the other two are just like in other places, you know, just like
Soul and power.
one. Yeah, the Power Stone is just in an orb in some place that nobody ever visits or cares about for some reason. Like, nobody seems to go and take it, and Peter Quill just comes across it, you know. And then the Aether is just out there, and then it becomes the Reality Stone and goes to the Collector, and he just holds on to it. But then the other three end up on Earth other than the Soul Stone. So it's like...
See, again, with the Aether, I reckon that was right in the time when they was just deciding that this was the way that they were going to go with everything. And I reckon that post-credit scene was popped in there at the last minute, and they went, we can make this work. We can make this one of the stones. You know, like I would quite happily put money on that. There's a few things coming. Oh, there's a few things popping up. I think have we kind of answered that? Really?
Yeah, I think we're good. So we can go to the next one. What movie was it they created a one shot or two just to make something make sense? I swear it's an Iron Man, but I'm not 100%, and I'm not sure either, because most of the early one shots aren't they with Thor? If I'm not mistaken.
They're with Coulson and about Thor, and about how he gets Coulson gets to Thor's hammer, and
it might be the one where I think in one of it's either in the first or the second Iron Man, Coulson says something about having to go to New Mexico, I think, and that's when Thor's hammer crashes into the Earth. Yeah.
There's that one that's called The Consultant, one that's called What Happened on the Way to Thor's Hammer.
But he mentioned New Mexico in Iron Man 2 though as well, didn't he?
Yeah, that's what Alex just said.
Yeah, but we're talking about one shot though. So was it in both in the one shot too? Did you mention that also?
I think they did a separate one shot, but like they elaborated on what was said in that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. He mentions it in Iron Man 2. Then they do the one shot, and then he turns up in Thor.
I can remember.
So I think that's kind of what that question's alluding to. It's kind of, it was a bit of filler that filled the gap between Iron Man 2 or connected Iron Man 2 to Thor via Coulson, via the one shots.
Yep.
Because I don't remember if Stan Lee was in the one shot or if he was in the Thor movie, but I remember he was driving one of the trucks that was trying to pull the hammer out of the ground.
Yep, that was the Thor movie. Yeah, because he tore the bed off the back of the truck.
Yep.
Yep. Another question here. Question for the AUA. We've had the Infinity Saga, and now we got Multiversal Saga. After that, would you like to see the MCU go next? That's a great question. Good
question. Love that. I quite like the idea of a Saga X, i.e., Mutant Saga. You know, I think there's a lot of that. You know, we're moving away. They've moved away from Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Thor, you know, with Chris Hemsworth turning around saying he's thinking about taking a back seat to look at his health and etc. etc. You know, they've got to have new players come in. We've obviously got Fantastic Four coming in. They're gonna bring the mutants in. They've been teasing them, haven't they, for the last sort of a couple of times with Namor and then with Kamala, and obviously with Logan turning back up in Deadpool. There's going to be, we've had Patrick Stewart. So they're teasing them, they're coming, and I think when they do, they're going to go wholesale into it for like a whole chunk of movies and shows. It's all going to be about the X-Men, and I think that might be where they go with it. But that's just my guess.
Mm-hmm. I feel like after all this is done, after we get done with like a large part of the multiverse, we're going to end up with a reset universe where we're going to have universes that kind of are gone or universes that were destroyed and can't really be returned. And we're going to have displaced characters that are now like in this main new universe. I'm not sure it's going to be considered like 616 as they actually like call it now. But like, you know, I feel like it's going to be like, we're going to probably reconverge to make this multiversal thing more of a straight line path. Because I feel like it almost like needs to kind of just need to be that way for a little bit, because the multiverse thing, if they just keep going at that, I mean, like the only step after that point is to like start going outside of Marvel at that point. You know what I'm saying? With like multiverse stuff. I mean, like going like omniverse, you know, but yeah, I mean, like, I feel like multiverse, they almost have to reconvene, make like a central story again, and start like just having all these other characters kind of just come and go about in stories.
I mean, it's literally what they did in the comics, wasn't it? It's literally what Secret Wars was in the comics. That is exactly what they used that for, to consolidate everybody into one singular story.
And they don't have to kill everybody off that way. No. They can pick and choose the characters that they want to keep. I mean, they could literally end up like bringing in like a Fox X-Men, you know, to play a role, and then literally be like, we're going to keep you after this for the future. Boom. You know, you're now this person in the MCU. And it makes sense, like, you know. But like, yeah, I mean, I don't think that, I think with a lot of those like reset events like that, it almost like gives you a chance to either wipe the slate clean or start with almost exactly the same but different circumstances.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you're saying. Yeah, you can either kind of go, right, we've got the groundwork and we're going to go forward with this, or we're going to completely start again. And I like the idea that they're not just going to abandon. Well, I say I like the idea that they're not going to. I like that idea that they wouldn't just abandon the nigh on 20 years that would have come before it.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, I like how everyone's talking about mutants and the X Saga and that kind of stuff. I kind of want to go to like a different direction, just because they've only dipped their toe into it through the MCU. They haven't really gone deep into it, and I think they could do a whole thing around like mystical and darkness, right? And when I mean to that too, you know, we got the tease of the Dark Dimension. You know, we got the tease of Clea, Doctor Strange. I feel we could do a whole saga with Midnight Suns, Blade.
Oh.
We're getting the Hood teased in Ironheart. We're getting Mephisto possibly teased in Ironheart. They could bring Cloak and Dagger in. We could bring Dracula in, Lilith in, Ghost Rider. Do some more stuff around Agatha. We could go with a whole mystical / dark, you know, type saga and explore that whole role. You know, we got teased with Man-Thing, Work by Night. I love all that kind of stuff. So I would like to see a whole phase on that tied into one thing. And kind of like Doctor Strange is kind of like the ringleader of it, and it wraps up with the end of it being the death of Doctor Strange. But all these different stories, even Moon Knight, they all come in, tie together, and, you know, we come out with the death of Doctor Strange at the end of it.
And see, I felt like the Darkhold was going to be a centerpiece of like a lot of the supernatural stuff. But like, it feels like the Darkhold's now not really going to be a big part of that. But then ironically, they also just introduced the Bloodstone. And I feel like the Bloodstone's going to be kind of like this one piece where it's going to be like responsible for like Earth having vampires, werewolves, like all this darkness, maybe possibly in the MCU, but also like a piece where it can like absorb that kind of stuff too. And I feel like, I mean, like they could connect that to demonic stuff. They could connect it in any direction they really wanted to, and move forward with the supernatural.
What they could do is kind of tie the Bloodstone and the Darkhold together. It kind of looks like they're doing with the Bangle and the 10 Rings as well. And that could be, you know, MacGuffins for, not MacGuffins, but relics for that stage. A couple of things are from the chat based on that conversation. I'm hoping, I think it's RMC. I'm hoping after
Yeah,
Secret Wars, they do an Old Man Logan Hawkeye series, then a Wastelands movie. After that, they can reset or take off another direction, focus on mutants, which I would love to see the whole Wastelanders podcast they're doing in that series of comics.
Yeah,
Like a Wastelanders saga.
that's something else.
Basically.
Actually, by the way, that's something else I've done over the last few weeks. I've had some work that's a bit of a drive away, so I've been listening to the Wastelanders podcast, and I started off with the Wolverine Wastelanders one. So I'm 4 or 5 episodes in. Really enjoying it, actually. It's quite, it's difficult because I didn't know where I was going when I was driving to this place at first. So I kind of wasn't paying attention. So actually I've paid more attention the more that I've been to this place now that I know where I'm going. Do you know what I mean? And now I can actually listen to it properly. But it's quite good. I quite like it, actually. And I thought it was going to be a retelling of the like the Old Man Logan story, but it's not. It kind of is, but it's inspired by. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but I've really enjoyed it. Have you both listened to it, or?
I think I've listened to most of it.
Yeah, I really like it.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I think I can't remember if I finished it, but I listened to that and the Guardians of the Galaxy one, and I only got like 1 or 2 episodes into that one. I've always struggled with the Guardians, to be honest. So like I wasn't really a big fan of that one. I've just never really been like a big fan of them even before the movies. So I mean, after the movies, like. Like they're just kind of more comedic to me. So, like listening to that, like I just wasn't as a big a fan of that as I was the Wastelanders stuff.
Yeah,
There's a Doom one now too. And then
I haven't listened to that one.
Yeah, there's from the chat. I have 3 times reference to listen to the Wastelanders podcast, and then
definitely
some comments on what I was talking about, MonsterVerse saga. So, yep, exactly, a MonsterVerse saga. And then someone says, "I love it, Jar, got my vote." So, so yeah, there's some good things there. I would love to see a whole, thing tied to that because I just love that kind of stuff.
Which, they could put the Bloodstone as a page in the Darkhold and have Agatha have known about the Bloodstone and eventually come for it and make her also cross paths into that in the future as well. So,
I mean, we could even get the Native American Sorcerer Supreme too as well. I'm going blank on the name right now, but the actress that was in Prey, she could play that role. As
the one who was a Ghost Rider.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Ghost Rider, not Sorcerer Supreme. I'm sorry, Ghost Rider. You're right.
No, I think she was a Sorcerer Supreme.
Okay, both. Okay,
yeah.
Okay, yeah. I'm going blank on her name, but the actress who played from in Prey, give her that role. And then even do all kind of stuff they could do with that stuff. I just love that kind of thing. Sorry.
or at least use the multiverse to bring us something like that. Like at least once.
I wouldn't use the multiverse to do that. I would just use maybe the Darkhold, the Blood Gem. Maybe the dark dimension, so that kind of stuff.
We haven't got enough telly and platforms and time to tell all these stories. It's just, but if you look at the rich, diverse amount of comics and comic stories that there are, there's so many running concurrently. It's almost impossible to do that in live action.
Yeah.
No wonder there's we're talking 4 or 5 shows and 2 or 3 movies a year. If that's what they want to try and do, if they want to try and we've all just said something there. We've had Wastelanders stuff, we've had mutant stuff, we've had Monsterverse or Monsterverse saga and the Dark Dimension stuff. That's not talking about where they're going with the cosmic side of things, where they're going with the street level side of things, where they're going with the Fantastic Four side of things. There's so much going on, that we've, it's great. I'll lap it up, but how much attention can they give one particular area? Like we said, it'd be great to have a whole Monsterverse saga, but realistically, is that going to happen? No, because they've got 4 or 5 other things that they've all got to concentrate on. So are we going to kind of not get enough of each thing? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
we might get mini sagas.
Yeah, you almost need like concurrent studios here, branches off of Feige, letting someone like run a Monsterverse, run a Cosmic, kind of have branches out, and like Alec was saying, mini sagas, make them like one phase instead of multiple phases.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they could also just give us a show, like a show with multiple seasons, like MonsterVerse kind of style things, and like either an episode hits on something or a season carries on something, like
Yeah.
vampires, werewolves, amphibians,
Special presentations.
Yeah. So I mean, they could do the Living Mummy, stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, and they could almost say, right, okay, there's one show of 18 episodes, but actually it's
Chapters.
It's three chapters of 6 episodes each, and chapter 1 is going to be, whoever, like you said, something about the Darkhold. Chapter 2 is going to be about Bloodstone. Chapter 3 is going to be how they all tie together with the characters that have been in there. And I think we've kind of mentioned that before, haven't we? Because when I said about the Red Machete episode of the webisode from the Walking Dead universe, and it was about an item. And then who that item has or who's interacted with that item, and it's you could do that with like they say the Darkhold and the Bloodstone. That would be really interesting. And then it centers around the item rather than around a character, and then you see loads of different characters all interacting with it.
Do you also think too they don't have to be live action? They can make some of these animated series too as well, because I feel like if you're gonna do like the MonsterVerse stuff and the Dark Dimension and Mystical, that could ring better in animated, or do a mix of animated and live action to kind of go back and forth. Kind of like how we saw go from gray to color and Wear It by Night, or what was the one with the flashbacks, the Christmas special for Guardians, where the flashbacks in cartoon but then came live action. You could do mixes of that to kind of help with some of the production of that, to where it's black and white, or practical effects, or even animated to help with that, to kind of leave that in and out as well.
I wonder whether the general audience would pick up on that.
Yeah,
we would.
Yeah.
I think animation would be fine, to be honest. I feel like it would also be something that they could use to kind of like delve into the wackier kind of like side of the MonsterVerse, and it be kind of like interesting, because like they can still give it a dark tone, and they could do it like a Marvel Zombies episode, like the What If one, but yeah, I mean, why not? Why not make it animation?
Or do like they did with Hulu, and use Hulu as a platform for it. There's all kinds of things they could do if they want to. I know Hulu was kind of like the best place, but I know with Iger back, maybe they'll, and saying more mature content and more animated stuff is coming, that could be on Disney Plus, didn't have to be on Hulu.
I've tried to watch Hellstrom so many times on Hulu, and I just cannot finish that show. I have no clue why.
Did you keep starting again at the beginning every time, though? Or did you go back to where you picked it up from?
Sort of. I mean, like, I remember, like, probably, like, the first handful of episodes really well, but then, like, I just, like, it's one of those things where I watch it, and then I end up on my phone, and then I just completely just, like, I'm just, like, whatever. And normally, if it doesn't keep my attention, that normally, like, is hard for me to just keep watching,
Those shows that you're never going to see all the way through when you end up on your phone or on your laptop, or doing other jobs while it's on in the background. You're never going to see it through when that's the case. Those ones where you sort of like, you kind of like looking at your phone, then you sort of put your phone down and start looking at the telly. Yes, it's got me. I like this.
Yeah.
From the chat here, we got a lot more characters now. Inevitable to get less of most of them. So.
Yeah, not wrong, really. Shame, but there's far more creative people than us working at Marvel Studios. Hopefully they can come up with a way to be able to integrate a lot of these characters in ways like we've spoken, special presentations, animations, other sort of sub studios maybe. I'm sure they've got a whole team of people thinking stuff up of how to get around this problem.
I just hope
Saul and She-Hulk.
Yeah, I just hope at the end of the multiverse saga, like, we don't have to have one of those where it's like everybody in the Marvel universe versus Kang like moments again. Like, I think it should be one of those where it's almost like they're hitting him on different fronts, like, where we've got like one squad of people here, one here, and everybody's like kind of like all going at Kang, like. But also at the same time, I don't see characters like Daredevil need to be going at Kang. You know what I'm saying? Like, he may never actually ever need to cross over. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah, you got to ask yourself, like, there's some characters, like, what good are they going to do? Do they need to be in there? Yeah. I know what you're saying.
I think that's all we have for the questions. Do you want to hit the news real quick? I don't have much today, but there's some good
Yeah,
stuff
go
in
on
the
then.
news.
Let's hit a few bits of news.
Yeah, so Fantastic Four. Peyton Reed did make some comments on the upcoming Fantastic Four movie. Matt Shackman is going to be great. Between you and me only, I've seen initial artwork for the Fantastic Four stuff around the Marvel offices. It's going to be great. Also, John Krasinski cast doubt on return as Reed Richards. He basically said there aren't any discussions at all. The only discussion I had was actually in the second to last week of Jack Ryan. Kevin Feige called and said, "Would you ever fly to LA and play in our sandbox for a day?" Basically, this just reaffirms reports that cameo in Multiverse of Madness was a last-minute arrangement. He said, "I was honored to do it. I flew right in from Budapest when we wrapped and went to the Doctor Strange set. I'm not a big fan of all those characters in that world. So to get to, I'm a big fan, sorry, of all those characters in that world. So to get to play in that sandbox for one day was a real thrill." So the last thing on Fantastic Four, it's rumored to be a cosmic adventure with Silver Surfer. Marvel's Sue Storm top pick is Isa Gonzalez. Galactus will not be in the movie, but will be hinted at. This goes back with the rumor in the past that the special presentation for Silver Surfer Zinlaw had to be, or Norrin Rad had to be before the Guardians of the the Fantastic Four movie. So there you go.
So, I mean, I wonder if it's going to be cosmic, if we're going to have them meet the Silver Surfer before he becomes the Herald of Galactus. I mean, that'd
Maybe.
be kind of a weird little interesting
Yeah.
twist if they did something like that.
And then they meet him again as a Silver Surfer, but they don't really. He kind of doesn't really know them at first, and they kind of go. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I like the idea of playing with, not necessarily playing with timelines, but playing with the way that they present a story to us and present a character to us. So like, it doesn't have to be, here's the origin of this character. This is this character before he got his powers. This is the character getting his powers. This is the character using his powers. You know, it's like, God, we've seen that so many times. So it's nice that they might be
Different.
you know, playing with that a little bit and kind of going, here's Silver Surfer. He is Silver Surfer, and he's being Silver Surfer now.
Yep.
And then we can, in another movie, another project, we can see something that's happened before, but it's still relevant. It still gives us context to that character, and it's just slightly playing with that timeline a little bit more. And I think that's a far more intellectual way of delivering somebody's story rather than just going, here's the beginning, here's the middle, and here's the end. You know, it's like I said, we've seen that a million times before. We could see something different. So I like the idea.
I think it like flips a page too, because it's almost like we've seen him on screen with the Fantastic Four as well before, but everybody knew he was the Herald of Galactus, but nobody really knows how he became the Herald of Galactus, who hasn't really seen him outside of that movie. So, like, you know, it's one of those things where it's like they can give him a side story, look at him on Zenla, what he did to become the Herald and how he saved his people, and then move on, you know? That'd be a cool story to tell.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, it'd be good to see that Zenla sort of set up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably what we're probably sent in the presentation, probably. You know, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 news. James Gunn confirms via Twitter Lady Gaga is not the voice of Lila. There was rumors about that, and he says nope. He did it via tweets replies. Black Panther news. Angela Bassett has received a Best Supporting Actress nomination at the Golden Globes for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. First MCU actor to be nominated for a Golden Globe. The film was also nominated for Best Original Song in a Motion Picture with Lift Me Up, which hails from Thames Ludwig Gornas, I'm sorry for butchering that. Rihanna and Ryan Coogler. Spider-Man news. We have some across the universe details. This is kind of the synopsis they have out there. After reuniting with Gwen Stacy, Brooklyn's full-time friendly neighborhood Spider-Man Morales is captured or catapulted across the multiverse, where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. But when the heroes clash and had to handle a new threat, Miles finds himself pitted against other spiders and must redefine what it means to be a hero so he can save the people he loves most. And you saw in the trailer that it looks like Spider-Man 2099 is kind of after him in the trailer that we saw. We also saw that we are going to get a mashup of the very first Spider-Woman and Jessica Drew in the movie as well. Because it looks like we have a Jessica Drew who's pregnant and also black in the movie, where the first Spider-Woman was black, but she was not Jessica Drew.
Do you know the story behind that?
Yeah, she was a librarian. Valerie the librarian. She actually built her suit, and she had no power, so she was kind of like a Mysterio in a way.
But
So-
do you know the story behind that?
No,
Do you
no, go
do you know
ahead.
the story where she came from? So she came from a show. It was like a real show. She was a character. So it was an actress. I can't remember who they said it was, but Morgan Freeman was the other guy in this show, and they were two characters in this show. And then like Marvel Comics and the show done some sort of
Promotion or something, or
promotion together, where on the cover of a Spider-Man comic they had Morgan Freeman's character and this other lady, this actual real person on the cover of the Spider-Man comic, and then
this
they
rings a bell
wrote,
now. Yeah,
they wrote them into the story. They wrote them into the story, and then they wrote her into the story to do that.
Is it
Yeah,
the one with her swinging in on a web?
The cover?
Yeah, the cover.
No, not the first. Well, maybe a later cover. I don't.
Okay,
I can't
maybe
give
a
you
later
but
cover.
The first cover, they were Spider-Man was swinging in on a web, and they were kind of all looking up at him and sort
Yeah.
of like pointing up at him, and
Okay.
her character and Morgan Freeman's character was sort of like, oh look, it was the electric company or something.
Yeah,
something
something
along
like-
those
yeah.
lines. But
Okay.
yeah, I read about this a little while ago, and I was like, oh well,
That's
that's really
awesome.
interesting because I was
Yeah.
reading about Morgan Freeman. Actually, that's what I was reading about. And
I forgot about the title of Morgan Freeman and the whole thing. I forgot. And now you were saying that, I remember it now, but I forgot Morgan Freeman was a part of that.
Yeah, and that's where she came from, and that's
That's
where it is.
awesome.
And she was Spider-Woman for one comic or a couple of
Yeah,
comics.
it was very
and then
short.
she-
Yeah.
yeah, and then she was using suction cups because that's what
Yep.
she thought that Spider-Man did to stick to walls, and then she
Yep.
realized he had powers. So then she went, actually, this isn't for me, and
Yeah.
kind of bowed out. But yeah, that's where that story comes from.
Nice. Across the Spot is the villainous role in both sequels, so that was also talked about. The Spot is an interesting villain because he seems like a joke, but when you really look at his powers, that's incredible potential. His ability to open portals across dimensions sets him up perfectly for Spider-Verse. He's the villain of the next two films, and let's just say that Spot and Morales are connected in surprising ways.
So he's sort of like America Chavez.
Yep.
Yeah,
Basically.
that's exactly what I was thinking. When you
Yep.
said that.
Yeah.
But instead of stars, it's spots.
So they're different.
Yeah, same but different, but still same. The last thing tied to Spider-Man, Donald Glover, who has campaigned for years to play Miles Morales, who's kind of too old to play Miles Morales, who plays his uncle, the Prowler, in Homecoming. He's attached to star and produce a feature about one of Spider-Man's villains, Hypno Hustler. This will be a Sony film.
I saw that. I mean, I don't even know who Hypno Hustler is, but I was like, oh my god, it's some like Z-list person that I've never heard of. Maybe it's not. I don't know, but that seems like what it is. And I'm like, Donald Glover is brilliant. Like, Sony, go away. Stop wasting people. Like, can we not get Donald Glover in a different role, like in the MCU, where we could actually use him? Like, man, I did see that, and it just kind of grated on me a little bit. I don't know what you guys feel about it, but
We'll see. You know, I gotta go back and check. I recollect a little bit Hypno Hustler, but I gotta go back and do some reading.
yeah, me
So-
too.
New World Order news. A rumor, casting grid for Captain America New World Order mentions two new roles. A male, 50 to 75 years old, businessman, polished, likely wears a suit. A male, 30s to 50s, a Marvel mainstay character. And
Ooh.
yeah, I have no idea who these people are, you know? But
What if
Marvel
30s to 50s might be a Norman Osborn?
maybe.
Well, they're talking about a Marvel mainstay character. I mean,
Yeah.
that suits that one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm. Wow.
So something to keep an eye on. Deadpool news. Sean Levy was out there doing some interviews. So basically he said in the film start, he says on or about, yep, the truth is the more digitally CG heavy a movie is, the longer time you need in post. But obviously it's the first Deadpool movie in the MCU. There's going to be no lack of visual effects. But it's also a North Star priority for Ryan and I to keep Deadpool raw, gritty, grounded in the ways that those movies have been and that all of us love. We are writing, rewriting, developing, prepping Deadpool every day now. It's such a blast to laugh every day. It is so delicious to hear and write and come up with these scenes where people are just taking foul. And the violence is in your face and hardcore, and it's very much a Deadpool movie. And it has Logan in it, and it has Wolverine in it. It's too fun. I'm having so much fun, and I haven't even hit the shooting floor yet. I have to say, developing a Deadpool movie is one of the most fun, creative experiences of my life, because it's not just that it's R-rated. It's that it's so filled with self-awareness and makes you in writing very, very fun in a way that is unique to that franchise. I'll just say, to be developing and prepping this movie that has this iconic duo together in an entire movie for the first time. So entire movie. Sounds like a lot of Wolverine in this movie. A pairing between Hugh and Ryan, Wolverine and Deadpool. It's very much a pairing that the world has waited for over a decade. And I'm the lucky son of a bitch, pardon my language, who gets to tell a story about that pair. The potential is so rich, and every day that we work on screenplay, there are ideas that we didn't anticipate that appear because you're talking about the ultimate Marvel icon and the ultimate Marvel iconolist. So there you go.
Yeah, well, looking forward to that, I gotta say.
The last
I
thing
love
he
the first
says... Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, I love the first two.
The last thing he said is that he'll be working on Deadpool 3 and Stranger Things 5 at the same time next year. He will only direct one episode of Stranger Things 5 due to project's production overlapping. Last thing, Academy Award winner Maze Rubio from WandaVision Thor Ragnarok will serve as the costume designer for Deadpool 3.
Ooh.
You know, and I wonder if we're finally going to get Wolverine's proper costume in this film.
That would be cool. And I really always like the costumes in WandaVision and what was the other one that you said?
Ragnarok.
Ragnarok. I love the
Yeah.
costumes in Ragnarok too, so they're probably going to look great. So we might actually get like something at least sort of similar to what we've been hoping for so long for Wolverine.
From the chat, Happy Salneve is directing. He's for sure to do it justice. Yeah, baby. We have one more AUA that I'll get to. And once I get to the news real quick, I can get to the rest pretty quickly, so we can kind of wrap up here shortly. Echo will be delayed probably a year, according to the showrunner Marion Dayer. So there were some rumblings about this, and it looks like it's going to happen. So, Iron Man news. Iron Man was inducted into the National Film Registry of the Library of Congress. So, you know, other movies were, but I think that's the first Marvel Studios film that has been done that way or been inducted. Be on the lookout for a new episode of Marvel Assembled. It will be released December 28th. It's a Wednesday. No clue what it is, but what's coming up on Disney Plus had it listed basically as a new Marvel Assembled episode, but did not say what. So I wonder if we're gonna get like an Ant-Man one, maybe, or a Kang one, or
The Marvel's The Assembled is the making of.
Oh yeah, the making. Yeah, true.
So it must be maybe it's the making of the holiday special.
Oh yeah, true. Yeah, good one.
Because the Marvel Legends is the ones for the characters.
Yeah, true. From the chat about the costume for Wolverine, black suit, X-Force kills Foxverse. There you go. Quantumania news. Peyton Reed, in his message to Feige, people felt like, oh, these are fun little palate cleansers after a gigantic Avengers movie. For this third one, I said, I don't want to be a palate cleanser anymore. I want to be the big Avengers movie. So they're putting this bigger and bigger about
they're bigging it up, aren't they?
Yeah. He also talked about Cassie Lang being central to the film. One of the single most intriguing things that I was excited to do in this movie was progress the Scott-Cassie relationship. It's been central to all the Ant-Man movies. The big difference here being that as a result of Endgame, Cassie is now a young woman. She has become a scientific mind in her own right. She's been going through Hank Pym's old journals and notebooks, and has really latched onto this idea of the quantum science and quantum technology. So, you know, probably more building on Young Avengers. If not, hopefully between Cassie and Kate's relationship in the MCU. On Bill Murray's character, Bill Murray plays a character from Janet Van Dyne's past. It's a crucial role. A big theme in this movie is that things that parents and kids don't say to each other, the secrets they keep in the families. In the last movie, when Hank and Hope rescue Janet, Evangeline Lilly's character had the idea of, oh, I'm going to be reunited with my mom. This is going to be great. We're going to talk about everything. But what happens if the other person, in this case Janet, puts up a wall and maybe is not comfortable talking about certain things and doesn't reveal certain things about her past. As we know from great stories, you can put the past behind you, but the past will always find a way to show up again. Bill's character represents that in the movie. And I wonder if this past thing is not just her being trapped in the quantum realm all these years. What about past with before she got trapped in the quantum realm? Like maybe
it was Shield and
yeah, or he was an accident gone wrong that got trapped down there.
yeah.
So he also mentioned Jonathan Majors Kang with a twist. In the comics, Kang has a dominion over time. He's a time traveler. His situation is a little bit different in this movie, which I won't spoil for you, but he's someone who, while we live very linear lives from childhood to death, Kang doesn't exist that way. It struck me as interesting to take the tiniest Avengers, in some people's minds, maybe the least powerful Avengers, and put them up against the most powerful force in the multiverse. So, the last... go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I wonder if, like, after the multiversal war, if He Who Remains could have put Kang there, almost, as kind of like an exile. Like, you're not in any universe now. You're, like, in the space between universes, almost, type of situation.
I can see that. That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
The last piece of news is related to Multiverse of Madness. We did have a different Illuminati in early drafts and even renderings. So there's one that showed Ironmonger and Balder were replaced by Black Bolt and Reed Richards in the Illuminati. So basically, Balder was going to be like your Black Bolt person, and your smart person was going to be Ironmonger for Reed Richards, and they changed that up later on. So
yeah, that was fan service big time there.
Yeah,
bringing those two in. If you think they kind of gone, well, we could have gone with these two characters that, you know, nobody will know. That's not what I mean, because obviously lots of people will know them, but that are less popular. Or we could just bring these two guys back, and this bit of fan service, bit of fan casting that people have done with Krasinski, and, you know, bring Anson Mount back and put him in his suit, and, you know, yeah, that was a decision at some point. This would be really fun. Let's do this.
I think it was a better move too, because people would obviously recognize Ironmonger from Iron Man 1, but people who are not, that are just MCU viewers would not recognize Balder the Brave at all.
No, that's right. And we'd already been introduced to Monica Rambeau, and we knew Captain Marvel. We know the Captain Marvel name. You know, we know who Peggy Carter is. So we've obviously seen, if people watched What If, they saw Captain Carter. You know, so we knew a lot of the characters already. So.
Which Black Bolt was like a comics, Illuminati member, but like I still just was so shocked when they brought that actor back to play that from that show. Like, it just caught me off guard. Like, I just did not expect to see Black Bolt there, number one, because of that. Just because like it didn't really get a good outing with that character in that show.
No, did they? I can't remember now. In the movie, did they introduce him first before Reed? Didn't they?
Yes, I believe so.
They did, because
because Reed came to the portal.
And I was thinking, when he said, "Oh, and the smartest man alive, Reed Richards," and it was coming in, I was like, "That's going to be Ian Grufford. It's got to be. If they've brought Anson Mount back to play Black Bolt, they've got to have brought Ian Grufford back to play Mr. Fantastic." And obviously, then it was Krasinski, and you're like, and it was one of those like, huh. It was one of those moments, rather than like an Andrew Garfield, whoa, moment. It was like a, oh, okay, fair enough. So they've kind of gone on the internet and gone, should we get John Krasinski to play?
I'm interested to see if Ironmonger would have been, which Stane would have been Obadiah Stane from the first Iron Man 1 in the multiverse. He would have come out in unsuited, because that obviously Ironmonger's not going to be able to sit in one of the chairs.
Huge,
yeah, or standing behind them, kind of thing. And then
why would he have been in his suit anyway?
Yeah, so interesting. But yeah, that's all the news I have for this week. Trying to get through it fast to kind of keep this show quicker tonight. So we have one last thing before we close out. It's our last AUA. What's up with some of the animated Pet Avengers, or a live action CGI version of Pets we currently have in the MCU? I think we'd eat it up. Maybe especially perfect for either choice. I think a special presentation for Pets of the MCU, or even like shorts, maybe have like kind of similar to how they did the Groot, I Am Groot series.
Yep.
Maybe a little bit longer each episode, but have one on a different each episode on a pet, Lockjaw, Throg, just go through all those different ones and do it that way. But even a special presentation they could do, maybe have them all team up to go like on an adventure or something, in a special presentation.
I
They
know
need
Alex.
to-
Go on, Alex. Go on.
I was just gonna say they need to do it in I cannot talk, an anthology series where basically like what if they just do a single episode on each one and then at
Yep.
the end bring them all together for one
Yeah.
little Pet Avengers thing for like 2 episodes. I think that would just be so cool, you know.
Yeah, I know Alex didn't particularly like the movie, but imagine seeing a whole short with the goats from Love and Thunder.
Actually, that's my favorite part. That's my favorite part of that movie. is the
There you go.
goats,
So
like-
you'd actually quite like that, then, yeah. Just the goats screaming for like 7 minutes.
because like they would just randomly like you would just hear people talking, all of a sudden you just hear this wail from a goat and then just like smash through something, you know, like and the only
Yeah.
time they got quiet was when they were threatened to be eaten, you know, by Thor. So like
Yeah.
Could-
The other
could you-
night, my son wasn't well, and my younger son wasn't well, so I said, "Oh, come downstairs. Let's try and put a movie on and see if you fall asleep to a movie." You know, so we put Love and Thunder on, and I fell asleep. But then I woke up to this screaming of the goats. I was like, what's that?
Could you imagine the Groot and the goats having a conversation? Just one episode of that. From the chat here, I think it would be good fun. LOL. One question to you guys: what pets would you like to see if they did that?
The goats.
Obviously, they can't do them all. They can't do them all.
No,
If
the
you had,
goats.
okay, let's do this. Pick one pet.
Lockjaw.
Okay.
Yeah, if you only had one pick to pick any pet in the MCU to do in this series, who would you pick?
Lockjaw.
Lockjaw. You going Lockjaw? But he's not. Have they got to be in the MCU already?
No, I'm sorry,
Oh,
Marvel. I'm sorry, Marvel. Not MCU, but
Okay.
Marvel.
Oh wow. Oh god. Right. Okay.
So it could be
Um,
like Throg.
Throg. It could be anybody.
Hmm.
Oh, that's. I'm drawing. I'm not drawing.
From
a
the
blank,
chat
but-
here, Pizza Dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
that's
Pizza
so
Dog's a
lucky.
good one.
Yeah,
Yep,
so
I'm looking at-
Lockheed. That'd be another cool one.
Do you know what I was thinking of Lockheed as well? The dragon.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'd be quite fun. Oh god, pets. The Flurkin from Captain Marvel.
There you go. That's a good one.
Mhm.
That'd
You
be
know,
fun.
mine's gonna be obviously because I've talked about this pet all the time. Mine would be Lockjaw. You know, if
Yeah,
you do
yeah.
something, you have to have Lockjaw.
Yeah, I mean we're going out of the realms of pets and just going into animals.
Animals,
Oh,
yeah.
really,
And you
yeah.
can make an animal. You know, they don't necessarily have to be pets. They could be any animal.
And I think that's what I was thinking. I was just
Yeah.
thinking, I was thinking pets rather than animals. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd quite like to see what Lucky the dog gets up to, the pizza dog.
Why we didn't see the goats pulling a sleigh in the Guardians of the Galaxy special?
That's
will
a great
never
point.
know. Like
We might as well have done, mightn't we? Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Because even though Thor, they're with Thor and they kind of went their separate ways in Ragnarok or Love and Thunder, they went their separate ways. They still could have been like, hey, can we borrow the goats? They got the Winter Soldier's arm. They could have
Yeah.
borrowed the goats. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't think Thor would have cared either. if they
Yeah.
borrowed the goats, so.
Definitely. No, he would have been quite happy to get them gone. Yeah.
Or like have the goats have like the Benatar all like jacked up, and Christmas stuff, and the goats pulling the Benatar across or something like that, like out in space. They look at the
Covered in
window and there's the
Christmas
goats.
lights or something.
Yeah, and Thor's riding it like just stand up beard, and you see the hammer and lightning kind of just going across.
That'd be cool.
That is funny. It's out the window, no words, nothing, just out the window.
no
You see it,
words,
yeah.
just across the
Yeah.
background. Yeah.
Or not
Yeah,
even do the
just crazy.
Benatar, just do the goats and have Thor make some kind of makeshift sleigh using or the boat they pulled.
Mhm.
The
They could have just
boat
used that.
yeah, have a Christmas decked out, have all the Asgardians on it we saw in Love and Thunder, partying on there, just going by, no words, just a party with the goats pulling it
Yeah. That's
and decked
it.
out in Christmas gear.
And the goats just screaming in the background as they
Yeah.
pull it.
And
Give Thor
imagine,
like a foam beer beard.
imagine like the goats are supposed to be like the sleigh coming in, and they come in the Guardians of the Galaxy special, and they just smash right into something, and you just hear them just scream, and that's the only thing, like just destroys everything. Like it'd be so funny.
From the chat, what's the one from Shang-Chi? It's like a common
Maurice.
name too. Maurice,
Maurice.
yes, yeah. Was it Maury or Maurice?
I thought it was Morris.
Okay,
'Cause
Morris,
it
Morris,
would have
yes.
Morris.
It was if it was Ben Kingsley saying it as Trevor, he would have said Morris.
Okay, so
Mhm.
yep, there you go. Yeah, that's a good one too from Shang-Chi.
Yep.
You could probably even have the Great Protector in it if we just did
Mhm.
creatures.
Creatures.
Yeah.
We've gone from pets
Pets.
to animals to creatures.
You gotta mix it up,
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we're gonna have the Great Protector and then the pizza dog.
Yep.
The dog just barking. This big creature. Should we wrap it up there then, boys?
Yep.
It's been a good episode. I've quite enjoyed it. Actually, it's been fun. We've spoken about loads of different stuff, and you know, as we said off air before we came on that we'd quite like to talk about some stuff other than just purely MCU stuff. And I think we have. We've spoken about comics. We've spoken about collectibles. We've spoken about, you know, outside sort of extended universe, quote unquote, stuff. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been a good one. We will. Well, I was going to say we'll be back next week. It's Christmas Day next week. We will not be back next week.
Are we back on New Year's Day, or are we going to do it during the week?
Oh, I'm not sure. We'll have to knock our heads together and work out when we're going to have our next episode. But well, Merry Christmas to everybody that's watching, everybody that's listening. Have a good one, and we'll see you on the other side.
Yep. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, everyone.
Yeah, happy holidays, guys.
Take care.
Why don't you tell them about the time we faced?
All right. Well, as I remember,
At Avenger headquarters,